Hi, everyone. Hi, welcome in. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, happy time zone wherever you are. I hope you're having a great morning or day so far, and I hope the weather's okay for you. Hi, Jesse. Great interview on Alexander's 20 questions. Yeah, thanks. That was really fun talking about pens, and it's on her YouTube channel. So if you want to check that out, if you haven't seen it, Alexander does a series where she asks 20 pen questions to just pen enthusiasts, makers. She's had quite a few people on so far. She's had Drew on and Helen from TheCoffeeMonsterzCo and little me. So yeah, that's been fun. And today was the podcast drop from the Pen Addict. So I was a guest on his podcast. I was so excited to talk to Brad about art, workshops. Oh, Jesse, you were there too. Oh, awesome. So if you haven't listened to the Pen Addict podcast episode from today, have a listen. And see what you think. And then also, if you don't listen to Brad's podcast, definitely do, because there are some great episodes on there in terms of like just general like pen questions and stationery and things like that. So was I in that podcast? Yeah, I was a guest. I was a guest on Brad's podcast today. So yeah, it just dropped. We recorded it over the weekend though. And yeah, it just dropped today. So that was really exciting. One of the things that I talked about on that podcast was how I take a little bit of a sample from new ink bottles that I buy or that I get. So what I usually do is when I get a new ink bottle, I take a little bit of that ink and I add it to a small sample vial. And so it kind of looks like this, or it does look like this. And then I number them right on the top. And then I have a list of all the inks that I have in these vials. And what I use that for is basically, it's a way to play with my inks without having to dip into a bottle every time, right? So when you're having like an ink bottle sort of sitting on your desk or wherever you store your bottles, it's kind of like, intimidating or a little bit of a challenge to just be like, I'm gonna play with my ink and take out all your ink bottles and open them up and then transfer a little bit on a palette or however you kind of want to use it. So I find an easy way for me to play with inks is to have them in these small little vials. And that way I can have, maybe 5 of them sitting on my desk, maybe the newest inks, and that kind of makes me play with them. So I just kind of want to talk about that today and then maybe do a little painting with the inks in the vials, and then we'll see how much time we have, because then we could also talk about currently inked pens if we have time. Miss Marilyn, darling, good morning. How are you doing? I'm good. I didn't stream last week. My kids are on spring break, so they're at home, and it's a ton of fun, but it's also kind of exhausting, and I also don't have a lot of time to myself, so I really missed live streaming. So I wanted to do that today and just do a little bit of, inky art, chill, chat, have some fun. So I will only stream for about an hour or so because my husband is watching the kids. And but we'll make the most of that hour and we'll have some fun. You're good too. Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad. That's good. So I was mentioning that what we're gonna do today is I should turn the volume off on my keyboard. Aw, thanks for following, Fuggy. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. So what we'll do today is we'll kind of just chat about, how we have fun with inks. Sometimes when you buy new bottles of fountain pen inks, you're kind of like, you plan to ink up your fountain pens, and that's great. But another way of kind of exploring that ink, especially before you ink up a fountain pen, to really see those ink properties is to paint with them, or, use a dip pen or glass dip pen, or, to swatch them, or to draw with them, or to do a little bit of writing before you sort of ink up a fountain pen. And so my way of doing that is to have them in these sample vials. And then once they kind of run out, after a while of playing with them or painting with them, what I do is I just rinse them out, and then I use them for a new bottle of ink whenever I get that. Or I just go into my little stash of ink bottles and I choose a few that I want to play with. Maybe in an ink that I've kind of neglected for a few months, or it's kind of at the back of my collection. I've had it for a while, and it could be like a shimmer ink, a sheening ink, where you kind of, I don't know how often you're inking up your fountain pens with shimmer inks, but for me, it's, once in a while. I kind of prefer to use shimmer inks with dip pens and for painting, because I love shimmery inks. The glitter and just the shine of it makes me happy. But I can't always ink up all my fountain pens with them. So one of my new favorite tools is the Dominant Industry Ink Muddler. Yes, I got one a couple weeks ago. They're so handy, right? And they're like cute and portable. I actually have it in my pen pouch that I can take out with me. And you can play around with inks. I love shimmer too. This week I played with adding Wearingeul shimmer potions. Ooh, how are you liking that? Because I haven't tried the Wearingeul potions, and adding shimmer to inks that you have. I'm curious to hear how you have fun with that. But I can see how that could be really fun to do. Playing with shimmer and adding shimmer to your inks is really fun too, right? Because then you can choose like your preferred shade and make it shimmery. You added Wearingeul brain to Diamond Pumpkin. I called it pumpkin brain. Pumpkin brain. It's working out really well so far. That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool that you can turn one of your inks into a shimmer inks. I think that concept is like just really fun. But I use Noodler's Conrad, so it has a super wide feed channel. Oh, okay, I see. Oh, okay, so it bodes well for shimmer inks. Yeah, it's kind of a trial and error maybe with fountain pens and using shimmers, because like I tend to go with, a broad nib as a starting point for shimmers, but that's not, you don't have to. You can go with fine medium, but then it depends on the pen that you're using, right? So if the feed TWSBI would be good, yes, TWSBIs are good for shimmers. If the feed can allow, like if it's, wide enough to allow for shimmers to pass through into the nib, then you should be fine. But I do prefer pens, like I love using TWSBIs, and I have a couple of TWSBIs just for shimmer inks. But I do generally prefer to use pens where I can take out the nib and do a really good cleaning in case, the shimmer sort of sits there for a little bit and it clogs up the feed a little bit. And it's also good when you're kind of cleaning out a pen and you want to ink it up with something else. If you can take it apart a little bit, then it's easier to clean out all those little shimmer particles that tend to stick around forever. fpnibs.com makes a Superflow Ebonite Yovo feed that I love to do musical feeds with. Oh, cool. That's awesome. I haven't checked that out, but that's very intriguing. Thanks for sharing that. Amazing. So let's hang out. What I like to do with these ink vials is I like to use it with a glass dip pen. And I tend to do just a little bit of floral drawing every day in my 5-year Hobonichi. So on this left-hand side where there's that, blank grid space, that's where I kind of go and I do a little bit of this floral sketching. And it's just, every day, take out a glass dip pen, take out a vial that already has ink in it, And then usually I kind of go in order, because then I, like right now, one of the questions that Brad asked me in the podcast was, how many ink vials do I have? So I have 71, but I think I have like, I can put a whole bunch of ink vials on this top shelf here. So this is just a tiered shelf, I think from Michael's or something. Yeah, I think that's where I got it from. And these ink vials I got from the dollar store. So I think it's like 5 in a pack. So really inexpensive way of sampling your inks and having them. I think for me, it's more about the convenience. It's just having them in, arm's reach, so that if I do want to play with inks, whether it's painting or drawing with them, I can just, reach for a vial and then I'm good, right? I'm good to go. I lost count about 1,000 samples. So the one thing I do try and keep to a minimum is samples that I get. So either, buying samples or getting gifted samples, so like trading them. Just because I tend to kind of, I'll ink up a fountain pen, and then usually you have a little bit more in a sample vial, and then I kind of leave it and then forget about it. And then, right, and you just kind of keep adding up those sample vials. And so I try and keep that to a minimum, try and use up those sample vials. If I do ink up a pen, and I think that I may not ink it up again with that ink for whatever reason, then I tend to paint with it. And then I use it up that way, because I don't want it sitting around and just kind of, after a while, that ink will also start to lose some of its properties. As water evaporates and it's just kind of sitting in like a plastic vial. So I either transfer it to an ink vial so that I remind myself to play with it, or I just like use it up right away and then I'm done with it. But I do swatch all my inks. So I don't know if you swatch your inks, but I do keep an inventory of all inks that I have in bottles and that I have received in samples. So when I do use up a sample, I still have a swatch of it. So if, I want to try and match up an ink to a fountain pen, I can flip through a swatch book and just decide on what ink I want to go with. And sometimes if it's a sample ink and I end up buying that ink, it's based on the sample swatch that I had. I'm the ink master from the Orange County Pen Club. Oh, cool. So I'm in charge of all the club inks and papers and delving out samples for the club members. That's awesome. Wow. That's a great way of using up inks too, right? Is like sharing ink samples with pen club members, or if you go to, like a meetup with friends or people and you can sort of do trades, or you just give out the samples, or even at pen shows and live events, right? You can take samples of inks that you own and share. I do the semi-annual ink down where it has less than 1 milliliter. I take an eyedropper and pour it onto a piece of watercolor paper. Yes, and smush it around to create art. That's amazing. That's exactly like if you have a milliliter or just a few drops of ink left, and you're one of those people that doesn't like to just pour it out, which, you're free to do. But if you want to get every last drop of that ink and really enjoy it, that's a great way of doing it. Like throw it onto watercolor paper, smoosh it around, make a blob, make art, swatch it, draw with it. Every ink that comes in gets a review on my YouTube channel. Oh, awesome, Miss Marilyn. I don't know if I'm following you. I have seen your username around, so definitely rings a bell, but I'll take a look on YouTube for sure. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Okay, cool. Yeah, so so that's how I kind of use it. But then my main way of having fun with inks and really like using them is no, for sure, don't. No, for sure. You're allowed to chat and you're allowed to do, just hang out. You're allowed to hang out. I love that you're sharing how you're using inks and stuff like that. That's amazing. And it's giving me ideas too, right? So yeah, for sure. Feel free to have me on in the background too and do like your own journaling or, you know, whatever you kind of want to do. I'll just be chatting away too about art and stuff like that. So, and if you're watching the replay, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. And spending the time watching, you know, me doing stuff, me doing art and stuff like that. And yeah, for sure. Feel free to lurk, feel free to come in and out, and I'll be here. I love that flower smushy do. Yeah, so that's kind of my main way of enjoying ink, is to paint with it, and then draw flowers. So these abstract floral art is kind of and it's a great way of using those shimmer inks, right? So like just really enjoying the shimmer coming through. And I love it. It's like, it's, you know, once you sort of get the inks down and they're kind of blending and you see, you know, the different shimmer qualities come out, it's just like really fun, right? They look so good. Thank you. Yeah, it's really, really fun. And then flipping through, you know, your past sort of swatches or, you know, whatever you kind of want, or your smoosh art or whatever you kind of want to do with inks. It's kind of just like a happy way of enjoying those inks and remembering, or even like picking out certain ink qualities that you may want to ink up in your fountain pen. Right. And yeah, so I love documenting it in that way. And then I can kind of pick out too, like combinations of inks that might work. So, you know, these are a few new inks that I got recently. So like the Pen Addict Fire on Fire on Fire, which is a shimmer ink. It's orange. Dominant Industry Wonder Pens collab Chicken in the Sky with Diamonds. This is really nice teal. And then, you know, you sort of see its properties there. And also Tuna and Olives, which is like one of my favorite greens now. What's your favorite color? So my favorite, I don't have a favorite color, but I have favorite shades. So one of my favorite shades is teal. And so I kind of tend to go for the blues, the greens, the teals. That's kind of like my go-to because they're calming for me. They're cool colors. But I try and incorporate purples, mauves, pinks, and more recently, probably with the painting, a lot more yellows and oranges, just because they're great, you know, complementary colors, and you can mix with them. And yeah, so my favorite ink is Pelikan Edelstein Golden Barrel. Oh, yes, that is a pretty one. And hi, Bailey. You finally made it to stream again. Oh, I'm sorry about the ads. Now that I'm an affiliate and I get to like make emotes, which is kind of why I wanted to become an affiliate, is I have some cute emotes that I wanted to play around with. So and I created these on and there's no little about. So I created a few emotes just to have fun and I uploaded them. Oh, Pen Addict crab. Oh, thanks for the follow. Oh, it's a raid. I was like, something's happening. I saw someone say crab. Hi. Hi, Pen Addict. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone from Brad's stream. Come on in. Come on in. What up, podcaster? Yes. I know. I co-hosted a podcast this week. And it was a great chat, Brad. We had so much fun. If you haven't listened to the podcast episode, definitely do. Because it was so much fun. I'm seeing all these comments. Thanks for the follows. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for coming in and hanging out. Yay, awesome. Oh, Ink Pony too. Yay, Ink Pony. Ink Pony Club. Here we go. Yeah, let's see those ink ponies. Let's see the let's see the crafts. Let's see the pens. Thanks so much for all the follows. Thanks for all the love. I appreciate all the comments about the podcast and everything else. I am fancy and famous, Tom. Do you know who I am? I was on the Pen Addict podcast. Oh, thanks. I love your YouTube channel. Thanks, Brash. Thanks for the follows. Thank you. I hope you had fun inventorying your ink pen addict. Brad, I hope you had fun doing that. I'm glad you did an inventory. And you kind of know how many inks you have, right? What is it, in the 400s now? It's a start, yes. So we do have to start somewhere. Looking forward to listening to the podcast. Oh, hi, Rob. Yes, I loved your podcast episode with Brad, too, because I listened to that last week. And very interesting, 2 professional podcasters. And I was like, oh, no, I have to sound professional, too. Only 500 inks. Wow. Yeah, so I have like a fraction of that, but I am working my way up there, right? Like getting my daily new inks. Look at us on the Pen Addict. Yeah, Rob. Oh. Now we have street cred, right? Now we have cred in the community because we talk pens and stationery. And yeah, if you are starting on your path to fountain pens and you're listening to the Pen Addict podcast, I'm sorry, because you are going to end up spending a lot of money. You're going to go down the rabbit hole and you're going to end up with 500 inks. You have 500 samples and about 200 bottles, Miss Marilyn. Wow. Yeah, so you can definitely play with inks and definitely have fun with them. So Brad, I was saying these are my ink vials. So when you do listen to the podcast episode, Brad asked me how many ink vials I have, because this is how I sample my ink bottles when I first get them. And I keep like five or six vials on my desk that I want to play with for that week. And that's kind of my way of making sure that I do play with my inks, that I explore them, that I have fun with them. And because I personally don't want to open up bottles of inks to just, do sort of like one painting or one sketch, having a few ink vials handy or at arm's reach is easy for me to just like, grab a few, do some painting or do some art, and enjoy them. And then, after I'm sort of done with these ink vials, I can reuse them for new inks. So, and then you can sort of feel like you're using up your inks more than just for inking up your fountain pens, which is, that's how we use inks, right? That's why we get ink bottles, is to ink up our fountain pens mostly. But painting with them and making art with them is a great way of using a little bit more of your inks, or samples if you have sample vials, especially if you have 500 sample vials. This is a great way of like using them up. Thanks for the follows. Thank you so much. Trying to just scrolling up. My first ink showed up in the post today. This is how it starts, Rob. This is how it starts. Yeah, definitely. And once you start, it's like, oh, I just need, the next. You see other people using inks and you're like, ooh, maybe that should be my next ink bottle. Right? So, yeah. Here we go. I'm trying to mod my own, like, right? But here we go. Okay. Hammer time, Tom. Oh, yes. So I was also saying, sorry about the ads. Sorry about the ads if you do get interrupted, because I'm an affiliate now and I got to create some fun emotes, and hopefully I'll add more, I just I'm playing around with them. So there's some fun cat ones, and I'll add some floral ones too. You're, Miss Marilyn, you're a calligrapher, also spend most of my time creating calligraphy with ink. Oh, that's awesome. Yes. Calligraphy is something I got into sort of a little bit. Like I took a few classes just to do. Oh, thanks, Miss G's. I was like, this is my first time. What do I do? Thank you. Always here to help, Miss G's. I appreciate you. And thank you so much for the follows, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And yeah, so I tried a little bit of calligraphy, and I think that's why I kind of have a love for dip pens. So, it's another way of really enjoying your inks is using a dip pen, a Kakimori stainless steel, or, I got paintbrushes too, right? So, happy to help. Thank you so much. So, yeah. Can I do that? Okay. Oh, okay. Gotcha. There we go. Got it. Love the dip pen holder. Yes, I know. This one is really nice. It's a collaboration nib holder between Amarillo Stationery, so Eric, and River City Pen Co. So this one is really nice. And then I also have a couple of other dip pen nib holders from River City Pen Company. These are the mini contoured. So this one I think is like the regular nib holder, and then I think he has like a slim one. So these are fun. Once you get into calligraphy or like dip pens, glass dip pens, or nibs in a nib holder, that can also be, another way of enjoying inks, right? So, or just like I said before, just a regular old paintbrush. I'm trying to work on my Chicago Pen Show Travelers insert, but I'm stuck in waiting mode because I have more work meetings. Oh, I'm sorry, Bailey. I hope you can get to work on your Chicago Pen Show insert. You're going to have so much fun. I saw that he made one that holds a nib inside the barrel. Oh, cool. That's really cool with the Zodiac. Yeah. Zodiac Penco. When did you sneak in here? Usually you like kick the door down and you got added to this chat without wanting to be in the chat, or yes, with a Zodiac one in the planning phase. Yeah, we'll talk. I've been thinking about it. Oh, no, we can't say more. No, I don't have anything to say anyways. There's nothing to. It's like early planning stages, maybe, right? Ideation stage. That's what I mean. Ideation stage. Are you possibly coming to St. Louis? I'm not going. So the pen shows that I think I'm going to for the rest of the year are the Portland PNW show, so the Pacific Northwest show in Portland. And that's in July, so mid-July. And then the San Francisco Pen Show, because I go to that every year. And I'm looking forward to that this year too. So as long as nothing, happens that prevents me from going, I'll be in SF as well as Portland, probably only for the Friday, but that's just logistics. And I really want to go to a pen show in Canada, because that's where I am. So I would love to, try and go to Scriptus, which is in Toronto. It's in October, But it's a 1 day show, so logistics again I kind of have to figure out. But yeah, we'll try and make it work. I want to go to all the pen shows. Next year I want to try and go to an international one. So we'll see. We'll see if that happens. Yeah, Tom, when is Zodiac Pen Co. going to start making dip pen holders? I popped in and then you got raided and I was pushed aside. Aw, Zodiac, you know you're always special here. You can always take center stage. Oh, Portland would be really nice. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a 5-hour road trip, I think. So I think that's what I'm going to do with my family is just kind of drive down, see some family on the way who are going to be visiting. So that's kind of like a road trip, small trip for me. West Coast, yeah, I'm in British Columbia. I'm in BC, just outside of Vancouver. So for me going, down to SF, or I went to the California Pen Show, or Portland, Seattle, it's a lot easier for me, right? More accessible than if I was going to fly across the country to, Toronto, or Montreal's having a pen show too. I think it's called Scriven, in May. So maybe next year I'll do a lot more planning and then I can go to a few more pen shows. 5 hours is about what it is for me to get to the nearest big city. Yeah, I mean, it is a bit of a drive, right? So it's a little bit of a hike. And I do hope that one day they have a West Coast Canadian pen show, Calgary, Vancouver, somewhere here. And I would definitely go to that one. And hopefully teach too. I would love to teach workshops at the Canadian ones too. So I will never stock them. They're special items. So there you go. There you go, Tom. There's only 2 nib holders in existence, Zodiac. Wow, that's limited edition for sure. Lyra Lenny, have a good lunch. Have a good lunchtime. And I'll see you next time. Are you coming with Helen to Flax for the meet and greet? I am not, and it makes me so sad. Yeah, I wish I was coming. And I love Helen. She's dear to me, and I would love, I'm obviously, supporting her all the way, but I can't be there in person. If you are going, are you going, Tom? But if you are going to the Esterbrook and TCMC pen event at Flax in LA, I think that's April 9th, right? Have so much fun, take photos, and let me know how it is. Yeah, if they did a pen show in the middle or West Coast, that would be fun, Bailey. I would meet you there. Calgary, maybe Winnipeg. Yeah. Oh, you are, Tom? Ah, you're going to have so much fun. That'll be amazing. Yeah. You might be going, Miss Marilyn. Yeah. Anyone who's going to that event, have so much fun. I'm definitely going to have FOMO. Yeah. And definitely document it and share. You're really... Oh, Orange County. Yeah, of course. You're close by. Oh, well, then you should go, Miss Marilyn, and it's going to be a great event. I know that they've planned it, and it's going to be a fun event. So if you can go, you should definitely try. And the rest of us will be, getting a pen beforehand, and depending on whether or not you have it in hand soon, then you can enjoy your pen. Do you know if they will be bringing Estes? I think so. I think, I assume that they will have collaboration products there for you to look at, for you to purchase if you want. So I assume they'll have everything there. Plus they'll have a tote and super fun extras. And I'm sure you'll get to meet Helen and talk to her and stuff like that too. So that'll be fun. You're looking forward to it. Yeah, definitely. It's an exciting event, and it's an exciting collab between Esterbrook and the Coffee Monsters. So, yeah. It sounds like it'll be a lot more available. Yeah. So I think over the weekend, Helen sort of mentioned that Esterbrook decided that they can do a second run of the pens. So that's really exciting because then, like, you know, if you miss out for whatever reason, and they'll do another run of the pens, then, you know, you can grab yours. So it's not as like high pressure, right, Bailey? Like just, I mean, obviously I want to be there, and get it as soon as possible. But, if you do miss out on getting the pen, for release, then at least it's, you know, the pressure is off to that you can get it at another time. You're on a no pen buy until Chicago, yeah. I get it. And then in Chicago, you're going to run wild. No, I know how it works. I just wasn't sure if I should buy ahead of time or get to buy one in person. Oh, I see what you mean, Tom. If you should buy it at the event. Yeah. I mean that's something to think about for sure. And remember too, if you're purchasing online on April 5th, when the pen's released, then you also have to think about like getting it shipped to you and when you'll get it, right? So yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, Esterbrook sent out an email, so that you could, sign up for the event, and they kind of mentioned the other things that they'll provide too. So it sounds like it's going to be a really fun event. Bailey, doesn't mean I can't buy the ink. Of course you can buy the ink. It's not a pen. Oh, yeah, super fun. Well, let's get into it. Like I said, I have a limited amount of time today because the kids are on spring break, and so I couldn't stream last week, which made me really sad because I love streaming. I'm like so into it now. And I love, you know, hanging out with you all and chatting all things pen and stationery. And it's also really chill for me because I can do painting and stuff while I I kind of chat. So I'm having a great time. I hope you are. Oh, Fountain Pen News, I missed you too. I'm so glad you're here. I'm glad you're all here. And yeah, so I think I'll stream for another like 30 minutes or so. But in that time, we'll do a little bit of painting, and we'll chat inks and pens and all those things. And I'll kind of just show you what I use for painting so that, you know, if you do want to sort of start this like habit or routine of when you get a new ink bottle, you just put a little bit into a small vial or a sample vial if you have one, and then leave it on your desk, right? And obviously write down what ink it is. So I number them and I keep a list of all the inks that are in vials, which I then use, like I've mentioned on the podcast, which I then use to practice some floral drawings in my Hobonichi 5-year. And I also use it for painting. So I usually pick like 5 or 6 colors that I have sitting on my desk. And that way they're kind of like there for me to paint with, right? And it's super easy to just grab them and paint with them. Kids' spring break is in February. Yeah. And here it's 2 weeks. So like they're still on spring break. But they're going back next week, and I'll miss that time with them, obviously. They're super fun. But yeah, it just means I have less time to sort of do this stuff or be live, and do live streams. So they had a handwriting class and they have in-person events often. Oh, I see. Oh, that's cool, Tom. That's fun. 2 weeks. Yeah, I know. I don't know why. I don't know why spring break here in British Columbia is 2 weeks. Which, you know, it's like it's a great break for them. But I watch them all day. So for me, it's like planning, you know, what their day is going to be like. And I do a lot of like art projects with them. But, you know, we have to be very careful with like inks and stuff. So it's kind of like I can't do everything I want with them. I would love a 2-week vacation, yeah. You get a 5-day weekend. Oh. Oh, will anyone here be at the Atlanta show next week? Who is going to Atlanta? I think Olive Octopus is going to be there, right? Yeah, have so much fun. All the Hobbies had a class at Flax. Yes, the handwriting class. Oh, that's the one you took. Okay, yeah. Oh, Kimberly's awesome. And I love her handwriting too, so. And has your handwriting improved? Like, have you sort of been practicing a little bit more intentionality when you're handwriting, Tom? Also have to plan to go places and do things, yeah. Oh, One Dog Midas. Yay, awesome. And Olive Octopus, yeah. Yeah, there's Lisa. You mentioned inks or pen shows, and Olive Octopus shows up. You sadly weren't able to make the class. Yeah, I think Kimberly too has started really teaching workshops at pen shows and live events and stuff, and I love that. And yeah, so definitely, if you can go to a workshop, right, in person or at an event or at a retailer who's doing it, that's a great way of sort of doing that hands-on art and things like that. That's another thing that Brad and I talked about on the podcast is workshops, and how it's sort of like a great time, like it's freeing to sort of spend some time letting someone else guide you through having fun or playing with, certain stationery tools, and using that time to really push yourself to be more creative and to kind of be mindful and present in that space that you're doing the workshop or that class. And yeah, it's a great way of just taking some time for yourself, and then you can take that practice and do it at home, or when you just have 5 or 10 minutes to kind of play with your stationery. So I would say go play with your stationery, because art is never a waste of time. Playing with your stationery is never a waste of time. You will get some joy out of it, and I feel like that's worth it in itself, to kind of just like take out stationery and play with it, right? Just leaving the suitcase half packed in the living room, yeah. And just adding things, adding your ink swatches and books and stuff like that too. I'm just debating on how much to bring for after hours. Yes. You want to give out some samples and 3D printed stuff. That's awesome, Bailey. Yeah. I know sharing at after hours is really, really fun, and hanging out. And if you bring, like I would, if you want to bring samples and stuff like that, definitely. And also like bring your like swatch book, or if you're doing an insert in your TN, you could even do it in there. And do swatches and stuff. And also sometimes people ask other people who they're hanging out with to like write them a little note or something using one of their fountain pens, or something like that. So that's kind of a great way of also including other people in your insert, or in your swatch book that you're taking with you. You're looking forward to hearing the podcast. I'm so glad. I was kind of nervous, obviously, because I wanted to, like, Brad had sent over show notes beforehand, and so we recorded it over the weekend, and I kind of had to put like thoughts together so that I don't just ramble on. But I think I kind of did just, talk about things, just kind of taking it where it was going. And Brad's really good at like just kind of keeping the conversation flowing, and then coming back to points or questions that you as the listener might have. And so that's, he's really good at doing that. So I think, just chatting about like stationery and stuff is fun in itself. And then and then being able to kind of like getting some points across in terms of like, I hope you kind of take away a few things from the episode, right? That's my hope, that it's not just like me rambling on about art and stationery. Wednesday is busy at work with meetings and stuff. Olive Octopus, yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I'm glad that you're lurking. I'm glad that you're kind of having this on in the background too. I need to do more in-person workshops. Yeah, I enjoy them too, Miss Marilyn. doing them online too, right? Or like taking classes and like learning new things, or like learning a process of using your stationery is really fun too. Aw, thanks, Tom. Aw, thanks, Lisa. It was a lovely combo. Yeah, it was a fun chat. I'm glad that you listened to it. Thank you for listening, and hopefully you do like it. So I'm going to start painting. Otherwise, I'm not going to have enough time to do this. But so you can use watercolor paper, which is, you know, sort of a go-to when you're painting, especially with inks. But you could also obviously use like your TRP planner if you have Tomoe River paper. I use a Tomoe River notebook from Galen Leather to do some of my painting. Because I love the crinkle too, right? Like the paper handles fountain pen inks really well. But it also gives this like satisfying sort of crinkle sound and crinkle look to it. So definitely any one of those options for painting with inks is, you can do that. So I'm just kind of move some things around. Oh, what I wanted to do actually, and I totally forgot to mention until now, is if you want to put in a number into the chat, 1 to 68, 1 to 68, and I'll take the first 6 numbers. We're just gonna randomly pick ink vials to paint with. And I'll tell you what the inks are afterwards. We'll look at the list, and we'll do maybe 2 paintings with 3 inks on this paper. Okay, so 35, 21, 50, 14, 37, 37, 7. Okay, here we go. Let's see what these inks are. Oh, 69. You know, that's why I left it out, Ms. G's. No, so 69 is actually Ferris Wheel Press Stroke of Midnight. And I left it out because I know it's been like sitting for a little bit and it's quite saturated. So actually we might use it to add a little bit of accent to the painting, but of course Ms. G's went there. Oh, so funny. Okay, so let me move these. Oh, I'm a menace. Who allowed you in here? I'm just kidding. We need those comments. You just got a sample of Adventurine by FWP. Yes, it is amazing. I actually really like that ink. It's really nice, for sure. I certainly didn't have a little moment while listening to a podcast about pens. That would be silly, right? Okay, so let's see what we have. We have Tides of Midas from Ferris Wheel Press. Ooh, yes. This one's a nice ink. It's like a dark blue purple, something like that. So we'll swatch it too. Actually, you know what? We can paint directly from the vials. So let's do that, because that's more fun. Okay, so I'm just going to use my regular sort of round paintbrushes. Nothing fancy. So this one is kind of this dark purpley blue from Ferris Wheel Press. And it has a shimmer. There you go. It's a gold shimmer. So when we paint with it, we'll make sure to highlight that shimmer. Oh, um, am I a FWP ambassador? Am I a Ferris Wheel Press ambassador? So I was part of their Jubilee ambassador team. So I technically am still. I haven't created, I haven't received products for a few months. I've been kind of taking a break because I have a lot of inks and I feel like I'm kind of at the point where I want to take a step back from just acquiring inks for the sake of having inks. And I do want to enjoy them a little bit more. So I do, if you go on my Instagram, I do have a code, an affiliate link you can use. But yeah, I'm just sort of enjoying my inks for now. So you can also find Ferris Wheel Press inks at Atlas Stationers in Chicago. And I also have a code and affiliate link with Atlas because they're great. So the thing I will say about Ferris Wheel Press inks is that they have a lot of shimmer inks and they are kind of my favorite to paint with because the shimmer really does come out in their inks. Like it really does shine. So they have so many shades, right? So you're bound to find a shade that you really like. And yeah, I love playing with shimmers, so especially with painting with them. So yeah, no worries. Oh, thanks, Miss Marilyn. Thanks for sharing. Hi, April. Just wanted to say hi. Hi, welcome in. So the second one, this is funny that this was chosen because it's TheCoffeeMonsterzCo and Robert Oster collab called Coffee Monster. It's the brown ink that Helen released a little while back, I think, and then it sold out. And of course, everyone wanted it, so she released a batch or like a bottles that she had sitting in the warehouse still. And yeah, so this is one of the two bottles that she did a collab with Robert Oster, and this is the brown coffee version, and then there's a second mauve purpley one that's called Day to Night. I really like this brown too. It's a really nice brown. And then the third ink that we chose for this batch is Cabernet on the Lake, also a Ferris Wheel Press shimmer ink, and it's this really nice deep ruby color, like a maroon with like a red shimmer. So this will be really fun to paint with. Cabernet on the Lake. So it's like having a Cabernet on the lake. And also Niagara on the Lake in Ontario is known for their wine. So kind of having a red wine in Niagara on the Lake. If you haven't been there, it's beautiful. Definitely worth it. One of your favorite reds. Yeah, it is. It's gorgeous. And then we have Wearingeul shimmer, and it's Romeo. Ooh, it's like a really dark blue purple, probably a dark purple that like leans blue, but it has a purple shimmer, and that's really pretty. So this is from the Wearingeul Romeo and Juliet duo. And that's really pretty. Yeah, let's put it here. It's a really dark, like it is really dark, like a dark purpley shade. Okay, 37 is Robert Oster Violet Clouds. Wow, you guys picked a really good array of... Oh, I need to shake this a little bit. A variety, a really good variety. We chose some awesome earth tones blindly, right? Yeah, I know. It's kind of funny. So this is like a really nice violet color from Robert Oster. So that would be really pretty. And then this is, the last one is, Dominant Industry. This is actually one of my favorite dark teals. No, it's not that dark actually. Once we start, you'll see. It's a nice teal. It's called Soleil, Couchant, Étretat. And I think I actually I did have it inked maybe last month in one of my pens. But it's this really nice sort of like earthy teal. I picked 50 because I'm going to be 50 soon. Fountain pen. I said you're going to be 15 soon, so you're still young. 50 years. Wow, that's awesome. Congratulations. 50 is the new 30. It is the cool age. I need to get to Niagara-on-the-Lake for sentimental reasons. My grandparents took us there at Christmas time and it was magical. Oh, Christy, I do hope you go back. Or I hope you, yeah. I hope you do get to go back because yeah, it's really pretty. It's a nice drive. And you get to experience a bunch of wineries, right? Super fun. Getting older is a privilege. It really is, right? And I feel like in your older years, you can like, I don't know. I feel like I'm enjoying life a little bit more. I'm 40, so I'm getting there. And 30 is still basically a baby. I mean, yeah, totally. Just stay away from the mountains. Oh no. Don't go hiking, maybe? I'm just kidding. I mean, you know. All right, so we have our inks, and yeah, it is kind of funny that the shades are sort of, you know, the darker, earthier. Yeah, not we don't have any, you know, super bright or light ones, which is totally fine. That's part of the fun of, you know, getting to play with your inks, right? So let's do a quick sort of painting with each set. You know what? Let's do one big painting with all of them. We'll do like a bunch of different flowers, and then I think what we'll do is we'll use this teal Dominant Industry shade for the leaves. So what I typically do is I pick out some inks to paint the flowers, and then I usually pick like a green or I blend colors together to sort of get the green leaves and foliage around the bouquets, around the flowers. Just because like to our eyes, it makes the most sense that leaves are, you know, green or yellowish, brownish, those shades, right? So I tend to do that just to make it a little bit more realistic, I guess. Not that it has to be, because it's abstract. So you can do your flowers any color that you want. You can do the leaves any color that you want. It is playing with ink and it's just having fun. And I'm just going to scoot over. And it doesn't have to look realistic at all. And it tends not to. Autumnal colors, yeah. Are we going into the fall? Oh no, fountain pen use is in the mountains. She can do what she wants. I just returned from the Florida Keys. Ooh. So going from sun, hot, beachy vibes. You are much more cautious now? Yeah, I know. I mean, you know, you obviously want to be safe and stuff when you're hiking or when you're in the mountains, because anything can happen, right? So, as you know, but also have fun. Hiking is fun. And just being out in nature in general. Like mountains, I find there are a lot here in British Columbia. So I find like they're just like a relaxing space, just to be among, you know, mountains and hiking along them. And then the view that you get, obviously, is really nice too. Someone fell in Boulder this week, the same distance I fell. Yikes. Well, that's not good. So what I'm doing is just putting down some of the ink, and that's why I have one paintbrush per ink, because then you can always go back and you can add a little bit more ink if you want to. And I just kind of distribute them throughout the page, wherever I want, wherever I sort of feel like putting the ink. And you can kind of distribute, you know, so if you have like a little bit up here, you can add a little bit down here. And that way you're kind of putting ink in different places of the page. It just makes it, you know, interesting and gives you some ink combination and color combinations that you might not have, you know, noticed or realized that work together. So this brown, I'm just gonna add as like sort of an accent. And then we'll figure out what we're gonna do with it when we draw. Literally just putting down ink on paper is really, really fun and relaxing, because then you're kind of just focusing on, you know, watching that ink. And as it's drying too, and this is why shimmer inks are really fun to paint with and to do art with, because as you're watching it dry, you're starting to see that shimmer come through, the different, you know, like shading coming through and stuff. It's like watching paint dry, right? Is boring, but watching ink dry is actually really, really fun. It's really interesting too, because sometimes we're not aware of all of the ink properties, especially if there's like shimmer or sheen. And this is like a great way of experimenting and exploring. And if you're using watercolor paper like I am, and you start to see that it's like really saturated or it's absorbing a lot of ink, you can add some water, dilute it a little bit, and then spread that ink around. And just make sure you have, you know, a cloth or something to catch spills. And then also adding water to your inks. You can sort of play with the properties a little bit, make them lighter, less saturated. Plain water. Corolla, I saw the video where you put a large traveler's pocket sticker in a plotter to hold a Hobonichi accessory notebook. And now, oh, now you're doing it too? Yes. Yes. I know. I love those adhesive pockets from TN. They're so useful. Oh, I have it with me. just in case you don't. So this is the A5 plotter, and then this is the adhesive pocket that you can get from Traveler's Company. And yeah, so that's what Plain Water is talking about, putting the Hobonichi supplement notebook or whatever. Like you can get a pack of these from Hobonichi, and they're perfect. Like they fit perfectly in a plotter, right? And yeah, so you can use that for journaling or for taking notes, or you know, for whatever kind of purpose. Super handy. I love that you're doing that too now. That's awesome. So one thing you can do when you have some ink on the paper and it's wet, especially, so here we have some of the ink pooling, which is like kind of really fun to watch the ink move around. It's something you can just like do for fun. But what you can also do is you can add an ink to it and blend it a little bit. And just making sure I get some of that shimmer too. And then see how those inks kind of play together. So I think this one is the Wearingeul Romeo, which is this really deep shade of purple blue. And it looks really, really dark on paper, but when it dries, it will lighten up a little bit and you'll see that shimmer come through. And you can kind of add it to, you know, wet ink on the paper and do a little bit of blending, or you can also add it sort of on top of ink that's already sitting. So what will happen is you'll start to reactivate the ink that's already on the paper a little bit, and then they'll start to blend a little bit. So you can do that to add some interest, or, you know, if you're kind of like for flowers, for example, you can add a little bit of like that center flower. Yeah. And then you sort of start to play with inks in that way, to blend them, to mix them a little bit. And an easy way of mixing them is on paper, so that you don't, you know, you're not dipping a fountain pen or a paintbrush with an ink into another ink. And you can also add them to a palette, which is initially what I was going to do, was going to put the inks in this palette, but I'm just gonna do this because it's fun. So this one is Robert Oster Violet Clouds, which is this really pretty violet mauve color. Especially if you're into this kind of shade. It's really nice. And it has purple gold shimmer, I think. Is it purple? Yeah, it's purple shimmer. The one thing you can do with dark inks that I kind of have to remind myself of this, but especially with something like this, the Wearingeul Romeo is like a really dark, I think in the light you can see that purple shine through there, but it is still really dark, right? Especially when you're just kind of like looking onto the paper. What you can do with that is you can add a little bit, like sort of kind of what we did with the brown, is just like add some accents to the piece, or you can use it as sort of those dark flowers maybe in the shadow, or you can use that just to kind of add some lines to your flowers. So you don't have to, if you have a dark ink that you want to explore and you want to sort of try this abstract floral style, you don't have to make flowers out of them, because as you'll see when we draw on top, it's hard to kind of see those floral lines. Thank you so much for the follow, Trav. And so yeah, it's kind of, you know, maybe that's what I'll actually do to show you. It's, you can sort of, you know, draw a little bit of a leaf and then add a little bit of green, and then that's kind of your shadow or sort of your interest point. And then you can still get, you know, the properties of the ink and still enjoy the ink. But you don't have to put a blob of it. So those are kind of the inks. And then we still have this really lovely teal green. I'm just going to see if I can, oh, there you go. Let's see if I can pick another ink. Oh, 69. I'm going to show Mrs. G's, just for you, Mrs. G's, we're going to add 69 too, as some, as some shadow. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, cool. So this is Ferris wheel press stroke of midnight. Yay. And this hat is really nice. It has like a really dark, like blue shimmer to it. Let's just mix it really well. Okay, let's see. So stroke of midnight. It is really dark. Wow. So we'll see as it dries. And then with this too, because it is a dark ink, you know, you can sort of add it onto flowers. And then we'll use it as sort of some leaves or additions to leaves. Okay. So that's what we kind of have so far. And now I'll just add the teal, actually. So what I like doing is use a broad paintbrush. And I just push down on the bristles very gently, right? So I push down, and then as I move the paintbrush, I pull it back up. And that gives you this leaf shape. And then you can sort of play around with the angles of how you're holding the paintbrush. Yeah. And get these different shapes and different, like it sort of mimics like the different angles that leaves can take in a bouquet. And also the different shapes of leaves, right? You have different types of leaves too. And yeah. And that's kind of the finishing touches. Once you have flowers in your bouquet, then you can sort of surround them with foliage. Love to see your process. I like seeing it come together in the end, because as I'm doing it, I'm like, I don't know how it's gonna end up looking, right? And that is the point of this process. It's the point of this type of art, is that we don't know how it's going to turn out in the end. And I love that surprise, right? I love seeing how it comes together. Off to make dinner. Oh, thanks so much for joining, Mrs. G's. I do hope that I get to enjoy the rest of my spring break too. Enjoy the rest of your day and have fun. Yeah, that is so much fun. Yeah, Miss Marilyn, it is really a lot of fun. It's so much fun. So I actually noticed that it's 10, so I have to I have to go let my husband know that I can watch the kids again. But I'm not done, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take like a minute break. If you want to stick around, what I'll do is I'll show you sort of how I draw details on top. And we'll wait for this to dry a little bit too. And I can show you how to expedite that drying process. But yeah, this is going to be on YouTube later too. So once I do finish, I'll end up finishing it, and then the replay will be on YouTube so you can check it out later. So I'm going to take a quick break. Thank you so much for joining. I'll be back in a minute if you want to stick around, if you want to join in a little bit. I won't be long, and I'll be back to finish this, okay? Okay, I'm back. I love the rotating chairs, the spinning chair, Zodiac. Okay, so we're just gonna finish this up. It's still drying, as you can tell, as you can see on the watercolor paper. Because it sort of like sits and it's absorbing a lot of the ink. It does tend to take a lot longer if you're putting a lot of ink down. But like usually what I do is I just let it sit on my windowsill, and with some sunlight it will dry faster. Thank you for the follow, GHP. GHP, welcome. Thank you for being here. So the other thing what you can do is, because you may not have the time to sit there and wait for it to dry, especially like in my workshops, or if you just have a few minutes to kind of play with inks. The other way to sort of expedite that drying is to take a blotter sheet, which if you have fountain pens, then you probably have some of these blotter sheets, and just gently put it on top of the paper and press down. So the only thing is it will pick up some of the shimmer properties because that's what sits on top. So you may not get as much of the shimmer coming through. But I think for the most part, these are kind of dry. So I think for some of it, we can do that. And so, yeah, so when I pressed down, it picked up some of the shimmer, right? Which you still kind of see it here, so it's fine. Hi, pen friends. Hi, butterfly. Welcome in. Thank you. Or if you have kids, you can use construction paper. Yes, Miss Marilyn, definitely. Use up all those supplies that you get for your kids, right? So I'm going to let that actually sit because I don't need that to be dry right now. But let's see. Some of that 69 ink that I put on top. It's kind of sitting there. But that's really pretty wow, you guys really picked some really pretty inks, and it's surprising how some ink colors really work together, right? Like the combination of some of them. But it's really nice to have some light colors with some dark colors. I don't think we need this here. I think I should have just sort of kept it as an accent color, but that's okay. It shows us some of that purple shimmer too, which is really fun. And yeah, we'll just kind of draw on top of them and see what it ends up looking like. Hi, Spicy Miso. Welcome in. Wow, this is pretty. Thank you. And April, it's beautiful. So fun to see all of the inks working together. Yes, isn't it? It's like really, really fun. I want the blotting paper too. It's the cutest. Yeah. I can't wait to do this with Helen and Esther Brooks blotting paper. Just kind of do like a really pretty, fun painting. And yeah, and it's kind of like, I like blotter paper that's like, it sort of has, like, once you've been using it for a little while, it sort of gets this like softer texture to it. It's not as crisp, and you start, like, you feel the fibers. So if you're like a very like textile person who loves like feeling paper and stuff, blotter paper for sure. And after using it for a while, so use those blotter papers, and after a while they sort of get this like soft texture to them, which is like really unique, right? Because they're absorbing a lot of ink, but they're also holding on to it, and you can keep using them over and over and kind of keep getting ink on them. Okay. So her blotting paper is too cute to use. I know. We're just gonna get the Coffee Monsters blotter paper and just keep it in its package, and or use it as a bookmark or something. No, I think I'm probably going to throw mine into my journals and my planners and stuff, because I love, writing with a fountain pen and then throwing a blotter paper and then using that as sort of like your bookmark, but also because it's absorbing the ink, it's also doing its job for you, right? So definitely enjoy your stuff. Don't throw a bunch of ink on it maybe, but definitely enjoy it. When I was teaching calligraphy, I tell people to go through the stationery store and close your eyes and feel the paper. Even if you look crazy, someone will know what you're doing. That's a great tip, Miss Marilyn. Yeah. I also love that you taught calligraphy. But it's so true, right? Like, really feel the paper to get a sense of, what you're using. And also, like, a lot of us are very like textile people who love the feel of things, the smell of things, just as much as we like the aesthetics of stuff. We also like to feel things. So crinkle paper, I've taught calligraphy on and off for 24 years. Wow. That's awesome. True blotting paper holds a lot of inky memories. I love that, butterfly knit. That is so true. That is so true. Like, especially because like it does, right? Like it picks up the shimmer, it picks up different parts of the ink too. And yeah, it has seen some things. It has seen some things in your books. And I guess it's like old books, right? Like rifling through old novels and stuff like that, where they kind of have that crinkle, that like smell to them, the feel, like everything, sensations. Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. Sensations. Like you're sort of transported to like a different time, a different place, different memories. And it's really fun. It's a way to, transport yourself and have some memories attached to it too. Because you can sort of, especially if you're using, like with blotter paper, if you're using it in one specific book, it's picking up, ink and stuff from that book, right? From that journal or planner or whatever notebook. And yeah, it'll always sort of hold the memories of that book. So yeah, that's fun. If you use a smelly ink, oh yes, that would be true. Especially some of those, I think there was one that Olive Octopus brought to the California Pen Show that smelled like roses or something, like really strongly floral scent. And it was kind of like smelling like a Parisian floral perfume or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it was like you're in an apothecary. And you're smelling these like scented inks that are kind of like perfumey, like, it's fun. The Étretat is red roses. Yeah. Roses, floral, like those types of, you want it to be something that's maybe not too strong or like too aggressive, right? But anything that's floral, anything that's kind of like KWZ smells like coffee. Oh, nice. Diamine Ink Vent. Yes, I saw your comment just now. Yeah, where they sort of included a few scent inks. Is that what they call them? Also, KW's smells like vanilla. Scented inks. Yes, scented inks. That's what it is. So I think our inks are kind of dry. Pretty dry. I can feel a little bit of moisture still on the back page, but for our purposes, for drawing on top, there's two ways that I kind of like doing this. Adding some details. I either use a pigment ink. So this is the Kakimori Black Pigment ink and Kakimori nib. Or in my workshops, or if I have just a little bit of time and I don't want to sort of do this, I just grab a fine liner. And my go-to is the mono drawing pen from Tombow. And you can get them, like you can use a micron or any kind of fine liner too, and just pick out a point that allows you to get some like thicker sort of lines, because you do want to see them on top of the ink. But you can also play with sort of a thinner point, like an 01 or something like that. And you can use those to add a little bit of details. And by details, I mean like directional lines, some of the more intricate details of a flower. But again, I don't spend a lot of time doing this, and I'll show you, but because we don't always have time to sort of sit there and just, draw and sketch. If you do, then yeah, definitely go for it and spend more time drawing details or kind of exploring your flowers a little bit more. But if you don't have the time, then this will kind of work just to do it sort of in an abstract way. So I'm going to use the Kakimori stainless steel nib in this lovely nib holder. Soon to be a Zodiac Penco nib holder. And I like using pigment ink because it sort of sits on top of the ink that you use, and it doesn't necessarily reactivate your ink. So it doesn't blend with the inks that you already have on the page. It tends to sit on top, and it's because it's saturated pigment ink, it's dark and you can see it, right? So it doesn't blend with the ink that you have on the page. It kind of adds to it, I would say. And I start from a corner and I make my way down because I obviously don't want to smudge anything. And I just draw these intuitive lines. That's what I talk about in my workshops as well. And this is kind of my process that I do have in YouTube videos. But the thing I like about the Kakimori nib, or using a nib that has different angles of holding ink, is that you can move your pen around, and depending on how low you are to the paper, it will put down more ink. And so that's really useful when you're drawing flowers, and you're drawing sort of like the depth of the center of a flower, or if you're drawing sort of, if you're adding a little bit of shadow, or if you just, want, for interest's sake, just to kind of you could draw a leaf and just kind of line out a little bit of shadow, and kind of attracts attention to it. And using the paint, or using, the ink that we put down already, I call them an outline because I am following them a little bit, but I'm not spending too much time thinking about the actual shape of the flower. I'm thinking more about I'm just kind of watching my hand draw these intuitive lines, kind of letting it do what it wants to do. And so you'll see that with the darker, these inks, which are a little bit darker than maybe this one, you'll see some of that pigment ink sit on top, right? But then also where it's very saturated, you won't see a lot of that ink sitting, which is fine. Like I said, it's an abstract piece, so your flowers don't need to look perfect. They don't even need to look like flowers. They just kind of need to have these lines that give the eye a little bit of a clue of what it's looking at. And I find that when you make these sort of petal shapes, the eye tends to know that it's kind of looking at these floral shapes, right? So not necessarily a rose or, a peony or whatever the case may be. But just drawing these outlines helps the eye sort of see that these are, separate entities or separate flowers. And then there's leaves, and then there's, these accent sort of little things. Kind of like in a bouquet where they kind of add ferns and other sort of filler foliage, just to kind of give the bouquet a little bit more of an interest. And I personally don't mind having white space in between. So when you're putting down ink or you're kind of painting with it, don't be afraid to have some of that white space in there, because it does break it up a little bit to show that there's like separate forms, right? That it's not all just like all bunched together and there's no space for them to breathe a little bit. So I kind of like that look. If you do have a little bit of white space, you can also go back and fill a little bit in, and it's totally up to you. If you kind of take a step back and you see where you've put the different ink colors, or if you want to add more ink too, if you want to play a little bit more, you have more time, you can add a little bit more color too. So as you can see, you can kind of like, this is a great way of enjoying and exploring the inks on your own while also creating something with it, right? It's very calming. You can kind of just sit there and do this for like, however long you have. And there's no pressure, there's no, it's kind of like the next step from coloring in something is like you have those paint outlines to sort of guide you in terms of where to put lines down, kind of like you would in a coloring sheet, where you should put paint down or inks down. But this way you've created it yourself, and you kind of like you gave yourself an outline and now you're following it. So thanks for the demo. Oh yeah, no problem, April. Thanks so much for joining today. Have a great day, and play with your stationery when you can. Definitely enjoy your stationery and your inks. And I hope you can join next time. I'll see you next time. So this is kind of where we're at. And I tend to sort of leave it once I add these sort of detailed lines. I step away because at some point it's kind of like I could add a little bit more color here, but I think I'm just gonna leave it for now, and that's totally fine. The last thing I usually do is I add the names of the inks. So we included a swatch at the top here of all the inks that we used. You can also do it at the bottom, so it's kind of out of the way, or on the side, wherever you kind of have space, you can do it. And so when you're painting, just add a little bit of a swatch and then come back to it. And you might hear my cat in the background. I think he wants to eat something. So then you can come back and you can add the names. And the great thing about adding the swatches at the bottom is that you don't have to wait for this to dry before you write on top, obviously. But I think what I'll do is I'll just kind of draw these squares. And then I'll be writing the inks underneath or beside. Poor little kitty. He is 17 years old, so he's an old little kitty. I've had him for 15 years, and he is definitely the king of the house, and he runs things. Elderly, yeah, he's very spoiled. I have spoiled him, and he kind of likes to let people know when he's hungry, but then he'll have food in the bowl. He's just being very picky. He also likes to just get the attention. So he's definitely my third child. He's not my third kid. He was actually my first kid, so he likes to let it be known. Yeah, they deserve to be spoiled. I know. They do, don't they? You've got one that is 20. Wow. And one that is 1.5. Oh, RKO. That's awesome. 20. Wow. I know. We love them. We love them. And as they get older, you know, you're very aware of the time that you have with them. And so he gets away with a lot of things, is what I'm saying. Yeah, he's my little boy. Yeah, they both are. That's cute. I know. They're very special, aren't they? Pets are very special. I've had dogs all my life. I grew up with dogs. So I've had a lot of family dogs. I've also gone through a lot of, having to say bye to them too. And, but now I have a cat, and he was my first cat. So 15 years ago, I adopted him. And his name is Bayless. And he's a big tuxedo cat. Like, he's big for a cat. And he's a tuxedo cat. And he's very, very pretty. And very vocal. Very vocal. Especially in the morning. He likes to wake us up at 4:35 in the morning. And yeah, he's very demanding. But that's okay. He is who he is. So, yeah. But eventually he goes to sleep, and he loves to sleep a lot, and he likes soaking in the sun. So it's always nice when we have sun, and especially going into spring. We get a lot of rain, but also a lot more sun. So this is, I'm just going to write the inks down. At least this one, because I think this is still drying. So I'm just going to write one of them. So when you're doing this, you don't have to write, like, it's kind of nice to have swatches and then write down the inks that you used, just to kind of remind yourself later when you're looking on this, on this piece, what inks you used, especially if you want to go back and maybe ink up a fountain pen, or if you're kind of looking at this and some of these inks blended really well together, so you can always do another sort of art piece using the same inks. So that's why I kind of like to write down which inks I used. Or if you could also take a photo with the inks that you used, if you don't want to write down the inks on the paper, on the piece. Like if you're going to maybe showcase this somewhere or something. My mom would always catch the cat trying to take a nap and scare them awake so they would sleep at night. I know, Miss Marilyn. I think when he was younger, I would sort of do that as well, in terms of like trying to play with them a lot more during the day, like keep them active. Especially if, like he's a bigger cat, so he does need a lot more, like activity and exercise and, climbing up and down and stuff like that. So when he was younger, I used to do that as well, like try and keep him up, keep him active so that he would be a lot more calm and relaxed at night, even though, they do tend to, they tend to be up at night, wandering around or, doing, sleepable at night. I know. With age, he's like a little bit less active than he used to be. And so he does sleep a lot. So I try and keep him active to the point of like getting a senior cat to move around is like, he doesn't want to. And it's harder for him to go up and down like stairs or, climb up things or jump up on stuff. So just trying to get him to do like small movements. And so yes, part of that meowing is also for like, he wants the attention. So he wants someone to come and like, be with him and play with him. And he likes being combed. Which, it is like, I don't mind doing it. It's just sometimes you're like, oh, I'm busy doing art. I'm busy being creative. Yeah, right. So I've loved doing this. I love the inks that everyone chose, and we'll have to do this again. I thought this was really, really fun. Like usually I pick out some colors that I want to paint with, or I use new inks that I have. And it's just like, it's a great way of using up or like exploring new inks that you have. But I have never done sort of like pick out random colors and just like paint with them. So this was a lot of fun. Thank you for doing this with me. Thank you for picking out the inks. And I think we're definitely going to do this again. And next time, I'm not going to let Miss G's in because she's going to pick 69 again. But no, what we'll do is I think maybe we'll, we'll do it again. Like we'll sort of do the random, like pick the colors and then see what comes out of it, right? It's just a lot of fun. Yeah, because there is 69. There's like, I could have upwards of, of ink vials and definitely add more inks and stuff. But definitely we'll use up some of the ink that I have, and it's a great way of using up the ink vials too. And you can either add more if you really like the color, or you can, pick out some of the inks that you have been, that maybe haven't seen the light of day for a little while, right? And use up some of your sample inks too. Like it's a great way of using up sample inks and playing with sample inks and having fun that way. So thank you so much for joining me. I've had so much fun. Thanks to Brad for the raid and for all the raiders who came in and stuck around. Thanks for lurking, having me on in the background. Thank you so much for watching the replay if you're watching. And next week I'll be back to my Wednesday, Friday schedule unless something comes up. But Wednesdays, Fridays, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 Eastern, or maybe a little bit earlier. We'll see. I'll keep you posted. But around 9 is when I usually go live. And we'll have fun. We'll do more painting with fountain pen inks. I also want to do my currently inked. So we'll talk about my currently inked fountain pens and notably inked. So the ones that I'm really excited about for the month that I've inked up. And and other stationery things. We could talk about planners and journals and all sorts of things. So bye, fountain pen news. And have a great day, Butterfly. Thank you so much for joining. Thanks for being here, Miss Marilyn. It was really nice to chat with you. If you have the emote there that says bye. And there's the ink pony if you have that from Brad. I might have to add that to mine too. And yeah, so it's just a bit of fun, isn't it? So nice to chat with you. I go live every day at 1 p.m. Pacific. Oh yeah. Okay, I review fountain pen inks all day. Sorry, Miss Marilyn, did you say you're on YouTube or are you on Twitch? Because I think you included the YouTube link, so I'll definitely check it out. You're on YouTube. Okay, yeah. Okay, awesome. Okay, cool. Thanks, Miss Marilyn. I will check you out for sure. So you stream on YouTube. That's awesome. Yeah, so I'll see you there. And I'll see you next time on my stream. which will probably be next Wednesday. If you didn't listen to the Pen Addict podcast, definitely do that because it's really fun and it will give context to having ink vials and painting with fountain pen inks and having all sorts of fun. And I'll see you next time. Appreciate you so much. Thank you for being part of this community and for showing up and for being here, right? Oh, no problem, RKO. Thank you so much for being here. And yeah, have fun. Go play with Stationery. Have a great rest of your day and rest of your week. And I'll see you next time.